Hi, I am Dustin Perry. I am the CEO of Kingfisher Metals. I'm a geologist, and I'm going to give you an overview of the history of the geology, the formation of mineral deposits, and who owns what land in the Golden Triangle. So, Golden Triangle is a prolific area, but before we get there, let's talk about what we're actually looking for: porphyry deposits and where they occur in the world, and then let's locate ourselves. So, porphyry deposits host a lot of the world's copper and gold, and they form around the world, predominantly in the Ring of Fire, also in a few other belts, such as the Tethyan Belt. Uh, we are focused within the northern Cordilleran part of this map here, up in North America. BC has multiple belts of porphyries, and even within the western part of North America, you have porphyries, all over the place in these younger rocks. You can see on green here areas prospective for porphyry deposits in western North America. There's a variety of ages of porphyry deposits throughout this area. We are focused on a specific type of porphyry deposit in the Golden Triangle, which are the late Triassic to early Jurassic porphyries. So, in British Columbia, you can get these porphyries throughout BC in the Quesnel and Stikine terrain, but we are focused here in the Golden Triangle in Northwest BC, and for the very reason that it hosts by far the majority of like the large porphyry deposits and the highest grade porphyry deposits in uh, in Canada, and especially in British Columbia. So, uh, where is the Golden Triangle? It's in Northwest British Columbia, right on the border of Alaska. This area is mountainous, it's glaciated, it's relatively unexplored relative to other areas. But for whatever geological reason, this area hosts a tremendous amount of mineralization. So, looking at this map of the Golden Triangle, we're just going to cover here a little bit about the infrastructure. So, there's a number of towns in the region. Stewart is a town that really has the port that was recently purchased by indigenous groups. You've got a highway passing through it. You've got a power line that recently went in, and then there's some mining roads, either proposed or active mining roads in the region on this image. So the area is quite happening, despite being mountainous and remote. So now we're going to talk about how the Golden Triangle formed. So the beginning of the Golden Triangle's history began back around 420 million years ago, at the beginning of this initial Stikine arc. So the Stikine terrain, the basement for Stikine terrain, which everything else was lopped on top of, was formed in this time period. You had marine rocks, the Stikine formation. You had intrusive rocks with a series of plutons. There's no real significant deposits known within this time period. You could potentially host a deposit in these rocks. No, not one of the major deposits in the Golden Triangle are hosted in these rocks, probably because you would have to erode too deep to get down to them. But theoretically, if part of the Golden Triangle, if you're in an area where, due to tectonics of thrusting up, if these rocks were higher up at the time of deposit formed much younger than this, you could have a deposit hosted in these rocks. So this is how it started. But when did the mineralization start? Well, that started in the late Triassic. It started when the Stuhini group, one of the major volcanic arcs in the region, began to form. So the Stuhini group were predominantly submarine volcanic rocks. So you've got a lot of basalts underwater. You've got submarine sedimentary rocks. So you've got, especially deep ones. You've got limestones, things like that, and then the Stikine suite began forming, which are some of the early porphyry deposits in the Golden Triangle. So the oldest porphyry deposits in the Golden Triangle are around the 220 million year mark, with the Shaft Creek deposit. And these formed by subduction coming from the north to the southwest. Uh, at the same time as subduction, you had a back arc forming further south, where a couple VMS deposits, such as the old Grand Duke mine, formed. So, out of these deposits here, Shaft Creek is the really notable one. Um, Ouija is an early stage prospect in an unusual little window through the post mineral Bowser Basin, where you actually see these older rocks. You got Hat and Star up to the north in the Chesley, which has been a very challenging area to work from a social license standpoint for quite a long time, as it's one of the, is basically the traditional homeland of the Tahltan people. Uh, In the shaft area, you also have Mess Creek, which is on my ground, Kingfisher Metals ground. BAM is a epithermal prospect that looks uh, apparently might be related to Mess Creek, and then you've got these VMS. You've got the Grand Duke mine, the former Grand Duke mine, and the Rock and Roll prospect further south. So was the initial pulse of mineralization in the Golden Triangle, and following this, still within the late Triassic, but a little bit younger, we moved into the Galore Creek suite of intrusions. So these are unusual intrusions. These are silica undersaturated, very alkaline intrusions, not a lot of quartz in them. They behave, or they can behave quite weird, can often be quite subhorizontal. Galore Creek is a good example of that. Not a lot of known examples of these elsewhere. Yeah, there's a area on Kingfisher Metals project, the Loon Lake stock, which is mapped of this age. There's Voigtberg, which is on Galore Creek's ground, and Grizzly on Kingfisher's ground that might be this age. And then there's Burgundy on Enduro's ground, which has been confirmed of this age. So there's not a lot of examples of these. It'd be great to find another Galore Creek, but they're just probably isn't a lot of these to be found. They're a very oddball deposit, although they can produce some very nice grades. So that would be the late Triassic. And moving from the late Triassic, we're moving towards the change into the early Jurassic. So this is around this transition period where you've got just about the beginning of the Hazelton Formation. So what's happening at this time is the Stuhini arc is tailing off, and the Hazelton arc's about to begin. And what happens at this time is there's a brief hiatus in volcanic activity, and that's where you get the red line. So the red line is really just this erosional boundary between the Hazelton and Stuhini group, where you had no volcanism for a short period of time, and you've got an unconformity, which means basically for laymen out there, it basically just means that you've got an abrupt transition from one rock unit to the other that's not gradational. So around this time, you've got these potentially late Triassic or early Jurassic intrusions of the Tatoga suite up in the Red Chris area, and these formed Red Chris and Saddle North. A very sexy mineralization. You get some incredible grades at Red Chris, some of the best grades on Earth for a porphyry system. All this ground is held by Newmont now. Um, so now we're in the early Jurassic period, which is by far the most active and long-lived portion within the Golden Triangle. The Texas Creek Suite spanned almost 20 million years and hosts by far the greatest number of deposits in the region. And it also hosts the Sulphurets district, Seabridge Gold, Tudor Gold, and Newmont in there with Bruce Jack. And that area has over 200 million ounces gold. The KSM project is the largest undeveloped gold project on Earth. So this is a very prolific region. It stretches right from the south of the Golden Triangle, a series of deposits. You've got the Premier mine that's going back into production soon. You've got Scotty Gold in there. You've got, like I said, the Sulphurets district, and then further west on the Iskut River, you've got Camp Creek, which Skeena is working on, and then Snip, owned by Skeena, and then Iskut project, which would include Bronson, as well as the new North Snip or Snip North porphyry system that Seabridge has been advancing. Further north of there, you get into McClymont project held by or McClymont zone held by Enduro, and then the rest of those Boundary, Hank, and Mary are all held by Kingfisher Metals, my company. Lots of potential still yet to be discovered in these areas, likely by looking outside of the most worked belts into the less mature areas. And then I will note as well on here, you can see some large pink blobs of Texas Creek age intrusions out to the western part of the Golden Triangle. And those are not deemed to be prospective, likely because just given the scale of what you see there, it indicates that you're deep in the system and likely in a batholith well below where a porphyry would be due to erosion. So just because you have the right rock doesn't mean it's necessarily prospective, but this gives you a good overview that Texas Creek aged intrusions really are widespread throughout the Golden Triangle and host an incredible amount of mineralization through this region. So once Texas Creek activity winds down, you get some pretty boring intrusions that are not host to any significant mineralization in the Golden Triangle. So that'd be the Cone Mountain Suite and the Three Sisters Suite. And then after that, we transition into another impressive epoch of mineralization in the Golden Triangle. The Eskay Rift forms between 178 and 174 million years, uh, which is about a 300-kilometer or so long rift north south through the Golden Triangle. Rift fill within this is the Iskut River Formation, which is the younger Hazelton volcanics. And these host deposits such as Eskay Creek. Eskay Creek was one of the highest grade gold deposits of VMS on Earth. And there's other prospects within this region. The main tenure holders of the ground perspective for Eskay Creek mineralization would be Skeena, Eskay Mining, and Kingfisher Metals. And then there's some other prospective ground that sits under ice fields further south. And then you've got the Antiochs deposit quite a ways south that TDG has recently picked up. So this is the last major well-known pulse of mineralization in the Golden Triangle. After this, you start seeing a lot of geology that is not perspective and that is actually obscuring what could have been perspective. So what you're seeing on here in terms of these rocks, all the colors I've been showing are what's been mapped by the BC Geological Survey. This is government data I'm displaying. And it doesn't mean that you couldn't have other geology underneath younger rocks, which is likely the case with the Bowser Basin coming in here. So the Bowser Basin began later in the Jurassic and spanned into the Cretaceous, and it covers a huge area. Probably about a third of the Golden Triangle is actually covered by it and deemed not prospective. That's why there's no claims in that area, except that little window of Ouija, which is out on the eastern side of the Golden Triangle. So that was the first big event of covering Golden Triangle rocks. The second one is the intrusion of the Coast Plutonic complex. So these are the same rocks that have created rocks you see in the Vancouver area. The Squamish Chief, for example, would belong to this age of rocks. And generally, these don't host any significant mineralized systems either. Although there has been over the years, there have been mineralized systems found in the Hyder Pluton and these younger Eocene intrusions, which would be at the young end of the coast complex. Most recently, Goliath has found the Gold Digger deposit down at the south end with the Sherbet zone. A few other examples in the area are the Porter mine that Dolly Varden owns that has Eocene mineralization, and also Lost Valley, a zone at the Red Mountain project. I know of quite a few other of these zones, but it's not a super well established age because, well, there hasn't been a lot of mineralization found of this age. Not to say that it isn't prospective; it hasn't been the focus for exploration companies. So now that we've made it to the last or the youngest ages of mineralization in the Golden Triangle, now it's time to move forward. We showed the Bowser Basin and most of the Coast Plutonic complex. There's a few more layers to present here to show where you can't look. So the most recent rocks in the Golden Triangle would be the Idziza volcanics and the Maitland volcanics. Mount Idziza is a well-known a vista in the Golden Triangle. It's a large shield volcano within Mount Idziza Park. Ice Mountain, Idziza is a Tahltan word. Idziza is really important to the Tahltan people. It was a source of obsidian which they mined to make tools and arrowheads and such for thousands of years. And there's archaeological evidence supporting a trade route of these artifacts all over British Columbia and well beyond. Pretty interesting, seeing as the Tahltan have become a mining powerhouse of their own in modern times. They do have mining in their blood and in their history. So these rocks are younger. They're covering areas of mineralization, and as we move on to present day, it's important now that we look at glaciers. As I touched on, the Golden Triangle is very mountainous and it has a lot of ice. And what you can see here is recent glacial data. So this is 2021 glacial data showing glaciers in the region. There's some pretty large ice caps in here. You've got the Cambria ice field at the south end. You've got the Andre ice field kind of in the middle, just south of Galore, and then the Stikine ice fields, and which would go up to the Juneau ice field at the far north there, on the stretching into Alaska. So what I've done here to just represent these non-perspective layers where you shouldn't be looking is I've run a buffer on this glacial layer here of 500 meters, because I'm going to have a hard time believing anybody telling me that they're drilling more than 500 meters laterally into a glacier. Uh, some people have put drill rigs on glaciers in the past, but it's quite unlikely that you're going to be doing that. And in general, I think 500 meters going into the glacier is a pretty good buffer, and everything beyond that is likely not prospective in the current day, maybe in 50 to 100 years. But for all intents and purposes, let's remove that because you can't explore under it. Now let's remove parks. So you can see the big park up there, tsx-v. You've got Ziza, a few other parks in the region. You cannot explore in parks in Canada. These are BC parks or protected areas. And now more recently, we're adding some staking reserves that have recently been announced. You can see one up there in the Chesley area. There's another one in the Clapan south of tsx-v. So these areas are not workable. You cannot work in them. So now we're moving on to what is not perspective, and by virtue of that, what is. So we're going to start by removing these non-perspective layers that we've talked about, cover rocks that don't host mineralization. And then we're going to zoom in on the actual Golden Triangle for the rest of this talk. Once we close in on that, we're going to focus on the mineral tenures within the area. So now looking at the tenures of the Golden Triangle, GCMC owns Galore Creek, huge project, largest in the Golden Triangle. After that, Newmont, which is actually the largest tenure holder, has Bruce Jack, Red Chris, and Tatoga. Tatoga would have been the Saddle acquisition. Further southwest, you've got Shaft Creek, owned by Teck Resources, now Anglo-Teck, or soon to be. You've got Seabridge Gold with their KSM and Iskut projects. That ground north of the KSM label would actually be most of their development site near the highway. Another large, $2.5, $4, $3 billion company, who knows these days, would be Skeena with a number of projects, Eskay Creek being their flagship. You've got Dolly Varden, which is now going to be Contango Ore with the merger. They've consolidated the southern end of the Golden Triangle. Treaty Creek, owned by Tudor Gold. You've got Goliath Resources with their Gold Digger project down at the south end of the Golden Triangle, and TDG. You've got Ascot. You've got Scotty Gold advancing their historic project. You've got Arc West. You've got Coast Copper. You've got a number of companies here. We're going through them in alphabetical order now that we're into the smaller cap companies. So there's a lot of companies here that own variable amounts of tenure. Enduro and Eskay had two of the larger positions that we just talked about, coming into some smaller ones here. Garibaldi with a nickel discovery a few years ago. You got Gold Ray that just consolidated a bit more. Gold Storm was a spin out of Tudor Gold. Juggernaut is not necessarily in the Golden Triangle, just to the northwest of it. And then you've got Kingfisher Metals, my company. So we've consolidated the largest tenure position after Newmont now and Skeena. So we're sitting at over 1,100 square kilometers and doing systematic exploration. Nobody's really doing it at this scale in the Golden Triangle, including the majors. We're the only group really doing this scale of exploration in the area. I suggest you take a look at what we're doing. Not too much promo in this chat, other than keep your ears and eyes peeled for news coming out from us about the discovery we made last summer. other companies in the area. So we've got Luxor, that was a spin out of Teuton, I believe. Metallus hasn't worked their Kirkham project for quite a few years. XGen is the merged company of MTV. You've got Origin with their Wishbone project. You've got Romeos with Trek. You've got Sassy, which has got a cease trade order right now. You've got Teuton, that's been a project generator for a long time. Towers focused down on their Rabbit project near Kamloops. You've got CD Capital, a London PE firm. You've got another PE group out of New York, and then you've got Charlie Gregg and some of the younger guys there pulling that together. And now we remove everything, and that is it for the Golden Triangle. So thanks very much for joining. As always, feel free to reach out for more information from me in particular. We've got a lot of information online already, and we will continue to be putting out more. Thank you for your attention, and good luck investing in the Golden Triangle.